Welcome to Auto News Talk. If you've looked at vehicle prices, tried to negotiate a trade-in, or just browsed a dealer lot, you already know the math simply isn't mathing the way it used to.
Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, it's wild out there.
We are looking at an automotive landscape that is fracturing into two completely different realities.
Exactly.
Whether you are a buyer hunting for a reliable commuter, a seller trying desperately to manage lot inventory, or just someone fascinated by massive shifts in consumer markets, the old rules of acquiring, financing, and maintaining vehicles are being thrown completely out the window.
They are completely out the window. I am thrilled to explore this terrain with you because the interconnected nature of these challenges is what makes this entire situation so compelling.
It really is a massive domino effect. We are unpacking a wild terrain of affordability hurdles, aggressive survival tactics from dealerships, and the intense operational battles happening behind the scenes.
We are watching an entire industry hit a very real, very imposing affordability wall, and that immense pressure is forcing a monumental shift in consumer behavior.
Right.
Because consumers are changing how they shop, dealerships are being forced to fundamentally change how they source their inventory, they are overhauling the technology they rely on to actually close deals.
And doing it all while trying to keep the physical service bays running.
Exactly. It's a domino effect on a massive scale.
Let's start with the people actually buying the cars, because that is where the most obvious fracture is happening. Coverage from a piece titled K-Shaped Auto Market shows that shoppers are dividing into two entirely separate camps. Value-conscious buyers are flocking to used vehicles, while high borrowing costs are absolutely stalling new car sales.
It is the definition of a K-shaped economic split. If you think about the letter K, you have one demographic line trending sharply upwards in demand and one trending sharply downwards.
Yeah, that visual really helps.
Affordability and the cost of capital are driving this completely. On the downward slope of the K, new vehicle days on the market, meaning how long a pristine brand new car just sits on the asphalt, are climbing steadily.
Just sitting there depreciating.
Right. Automakers are desperately trying to calibrate their supply to a market that is hesitating. But on the upward slope, used inventory demand is surging, and the supply of used vehicles is actually improving to meet that incredible interest.
The data guys over at CarGurus put some hard numbers to this in their intelligence report, which was referenced in that K-shaped market coverage.
The price gap data.
Exactly. This is the memorable detail that really highlights why that split is happening. According to their data, the average new vehicle list price is sitting near $50,000.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the average used listing is about $27,800.
We have to pause and just think about what a $50,000 asset means for a typical household budget.
It's a mortgage payment for some people.
It really is. When you factor in insurance and borrowing costs, that prices a massive swath of the middle class entirely out of the new car market. This immense price chasm means automakers might soon be backed into a corner. They will be forced to roll out extremely aggressive, targeted incentives, cash on the hood, subsidized lease rates, 0% financing offers, just to move new metal off the lot.
Because the affordability wall is simply too high to scale without a ladder provided by the manufacturer.
Precisely.
But, and this is a glaring limitation to point out in that source, it leaves a massive open question. The coverage does not clarify exactly when or how deep manufacturers will cut prices if demand continues to stay soft.
Yeah, that's the missing piece of the puzzle.
We are left wondering who blinks first. Does the manufacturer slash profit margins to move units, or does the consumer finally cave and accept a massive monthly payment?
That is the multi-billion-dollar standoff. And because so many consumers are emphatically refusing to pay $50,000, they are heavily chasing those $27,000 used cars.
Which makes sense.
It does. And that intense demand brings us to a major structural shift in how dealerships actually acquire those used vehicles.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because if used inventory is so tight, where are dealers actually finding these cars? A strategy piece called Take It to the Streets argues that dealers should actually bypass traditional wholesale auctions entirely.
A radical idea for a lot of traditional managers.
Absolutely. The core argument is that the off-lease pipeline is incredibly thin, forcing dealers to build dedicated buy centers to source inventory directly from private parties.
Let's clarify that jargon for a moment, because the off-lease pipeline is usually the absolute lifeblood of a used car lot.
Give us the breakdown.
Historically, someone leases a car for 3 years, they turn it in, and boom, the dealership has a perfectly maintained 3-year-old used car to sell.
It's a clean, predictable system.
Exactly. But because leasing plummeted a few years ago due to inventory shortages, those 3-year-old cars simply do not exist in the numbers they used to. The pipeline is dry.
So they have to look elsewhere.
Right, so this article argues for a fundamental shift in dealership culture. It moves a dealership's focus from just selling cars to aggressively hunting and acquiring them from the general public.
And the piece is very specific about how to win this acquisition game. It advocates that dealerships must compete strictly on, and I'm quoting the strategy piece directly here, operational speed from first contact to reconditioning.
Speed is everything there.
They have to buy the car off the street, inspect it, fix it, detail it, and get it on the front line faster than the competition.
They absolutely have to move fast, but they are navigating serious operational minefields to do it. When you buy from a wholesale auction, a lot of the risk is mitigated.
Because the auction house guarantees certain things.
Right. When you buy a car out of a stranger's driveway, you face massive title and lien complications, inconsistent documentation, undisclosed mechanical issues that someone tried to hide, and even potential fraud.
Sounds like a nightmare for the back office.
It can be. A dealership needs an intense ironclad workflow to verify ownership, ensure the vehicle is safe, and protect their margins.
I am looking at this strategy playbook, and I think we need to view it with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Oh, for sure.
The author of Take It to the Streets is a platform CEO operating directly in the private party software space. He builds the tools for this exact strategy.
So he's selling the shovels during the gold rush.
Exactly. So a major limitation here is that the piece lacks independent comparative data to definitively prove its claims against traditional auction margins.
Yeah.
We are essentially taking an industry operator's word that his method is the future.
You are hitting on the exact reason we have to cross-reference our data. It becomes even more complex when we look at the broader macroeconomic forces driving this scramble for inventory.
What else are you seeing?
A weekly Cox Automotive market brief shows an entirely different side of the coin. While the first article tells dealers to avoid auctions, the Cox brief notes that wholesale auction values are actually firming up because dealers are heavily stocking up through those exact channels.
So the auction lanes aren't dead at all.
Far from it. The market is moving incredibly fast, and Cox points to borrowing costs showing slight signs of easing, specifically the 10-year Treasury dipping below 4%.
Let's translate that financial indicator for the listener.
Yeah.
The 10-year Treasury yield is basically the benchmark that banks use to set auto loan rates.
Exactly.
When that yield drops, borrowing gets a tiny bit cheaper for the consumer, which stimulates demand. But the Cox report highlights an even bigger catalyst for the used car market. A huge injection of cash happening at the consumer level.
Yes, the tax refunds.
Exactly. According to the Cox brief, total tax dollars refunded are up nearly 7%, pumping a staggering $109.3 billion into consumers' pockets.
That is a phenomenal amount of liquidity hitting the streets, and it provides the crucial context for the entire used car land grab.
Is fuel for the fire.
It really is. That massive injection of cash is creating a powerful demand bridge. It allows dealers to aggressively stock up on inventory at auction, driving those prices up because they know consumers are walking around with increased purchasing power, ready to use those tax refunds as substantial down payments.
Though we cannot ignore the larger economic shadows hanging over the lot, the Cox brief also acknowledges a major limitation in this optimistic view: sticky inflation numbers.
Yeah, inflation is the stubborn guest that won't leave the party.
They point out that strength in producer prices makes the long-term auto financing outlook highly uncertain. There's ongoing pressure on household balance sheets, and consumer sentiment remains subdued.
Which tempers the excitement a bit.
For sure. The cash injection from refunds is a fantastic temporary bridge, but the broader economic reality still dictates the long game.
So let's trace the journey. A dealer successfully hunts down the right used car. Maybe they bought it off the street. Maybe they paid a premium at auction. They recondition it.
Yeah.
A buyer walks in with that tax refund down payment. They still have to face the final and historically most frustrating hurdle of the car buying journey: the finance office.
Oh man, we have all been trapped in that dealership finance office for 3 hours while they run credit and print endless forms, right?
Ooh, worst. Just sitting there staring at a calendar on the wall.
With household budgets as tight as they are, digital retailing is having to adapt rapidly to kill that waiting game. We see this in coverage detailing how a company called CarMoney integrates with the Ivendi digital platform.
This is a really vital operational shift.
The stated goal is to provide earlier eligibility decisions and much wider APR visibility for buyers long before they sit in the leather chairs.
It is entirely about removing friction from the buying journey. APR, or annual percentage rate, is the true cost of the loan.
It's the number that actually matters.
Right. By presenting eligibility indicators and those APR ranges much earlier in the digital process, dealers can keep buyers engaged. It prevents those disastrous last-minute drop-offs in the finance office where a buyer realizes they actually cannot afford the car.
Nothing kills a deal faster than a surprise monthly payment.
Exactly. The integration focuses on speed, clarity, choice, and conversion. When you are fighting for every single sale, clarity is just as important as the vehicle itself.
The truly memorable detail from this integration coverage is CarMoney's proprietary black box data engine.
The black box engine.
According to the source, this engine strengthens pre-approvals before formal applications are even submitted. Instead of just pulling a generic credit score, the data engine is doing the heavy lifting in the background, analyzing risk profiles, sorting lender permutations, and formatting the data so the customer gets a smoother, more accurate experience instantly.
Which is fantastic for streamlining that digital-to-showroom pipeline. It empowers the consumer to understand their own affordability before they even take a test drive.
But there are some holes in this story.
There are. The source coverage leaves out some highly critical specifics. It does not mention the exact number of lenders on the CarMoney panel, nor does it specify the actual APR ranges available to consumers.
So we know it works, we just don't know the exact parameters.
Right. We are getting a great look at the operational mechanics of the software, but we are completely missing the exact financial figures that prove its ultimate value to a specific buyer.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We have talked about high-level acquisition strategies, macroeconomic indicators, and slick digital finance tools with proprietary data engines.
It's a lot of high-level strategy.
Let's pivot from the pristine digital showroom and bring this conversation back down to the physical reality of the dealership, the service bays where vehicles are actually maintained.
This is where the rubber literally meets the road. The physical realities of automotive safety and maintenance never stop.
They really don't.
It does not matter what the financial markets are doing or how fast a digital retailing platform can run a credit check. If a car has a mechanical flaw, it has to be fixed.
Which brings us to a massive operational headache. We have coverage of a significant recall affecting Subaru Crosstrek and Forester hybrids.
A very specific, very troublesome mechanical issue.
The mechanical issue is a faulty fuel cap gasket. In warm conditions, when the tank is near full, the expanding fuel can actually be pushed up the filler neck. To fix it, dealers have to bring the vehicles in and install an updated O-ring design.
The safety implications of that are incredibly serious. Anytime you have gasoline potentially escaping a closed system, you are dealing with a very real fire risk.
It's not something you can just put off until your next oil change.
No, absolutely not. The interim guidance for this recall is literally telling owners to park their vehicles outdoors and warning them not to fill the fuel tank beyond the halfway mark.
The specific detail highlighted in the Subaru recall coverage is that there have been 33 U.S. field reports tied to this exact issue.
33 is a high number for something like this.
Thankfully, there are no known fires or injuries reported, but 33 field reports means this is a widespread, observable phenomenon, not just a theoretical engineering flaw discovered in a lab.
But I want you to think about the sheer operational strain this creates for a dealership. Connect this back to what we discussed earlier.
The speed issue.
Yes. You have dealerships hustling to manage a highly complex, fast-moving used car market. They are trying to run lean, fast-paced buy centers where operational speed is the only way to win.
Right.
They need their service bays to rapidly recondition the cars they buy off the street. And suddenly, they face a wave of over 71,000 hybrid SUVs needing emergency O-ring replacements.
It's a massive physical bottleneck. The very bays you need to prep your used inventory are suddenly clogged with recall work.
It throws the entire ecosystem out of balance.
And there is a lingering, somewhat baffling open question in the coverage here, too. The recall notice is strictly limited to the hybrid versions of the Crosstrek and Forester.
That's the strange part.
It leaves it a complete mystery as to why the gas-only powertrains of these exact same models are unaffected by the gasket issue. We're just left wondering what the engineering difference is in the fuel filler necks between the two drivetrains.
It's those little engineering mysteries that keep service managers up at night. But when you take a step back and pull all these distinct, seemingly disparate threads together, A few major themes become very clear for anyone trying to navigate the automotive space.
Let's lay them out for the listener.
First and foremost, affordability is dictating the entire market.
Without a doubt. We see that supported heavily by the CarGurus intelligence data, showing the K-shaped market, pushing value-conscious buyers strictly away from $50,000 new cars and toward used lots.
That $50,000 threshold is just too steep.
We see it in the Cox report, showing how heavily the entire market relies on the purchasing power of those $109 billion in tax refunds.
Yeah.
And we see it in the push for clearer, faster finance tools like the car money integration, just to get strained household budgets approved without friction.
The second overarching theme is that speed is the new currency. The old way of doing business was slow and methodical.
Now it's a sprint.
Exactly. Whether it is the instant financial approvals generated by CarMoney's black box engine, or the aggressive operational speed demanded by private party acquisition strategies where you have to recondition a car faster than the dealer down the street, velocity is how you survive.
And the third theme is intense dealership adaptation. Dealerships are having to fundamentally change how they operate their businesses.
From the ground up.
From building entirely new, dedicated buy centers, from scratch to hunt for inventory, to managing unexpected massive service bottlenecks like the 71,000 vehicle Subaru recall. The job description of a general manager has completely changed.
But within those themes, there are some fascinating deep-seated contradictions that the industry has not solved yet. Look at the primary tension of where to actually buy inventory.
The option versus private party debate.
Right. The strategy piece, take it to the streets, explicitly tells dealers to completely abandon wholesale auctions and source privately. But at the exact same time, the Cox brief proves that dealers are heavily driving up Manheim wholesale auction values as they acquire inventory.
The industry is pulling itself in entirely opposite directions, trying to find the same cars.
Exactly. There is also the constant grinding tension between the sales floor and the service drive,
which we saw with the Subaru issue.
Dealerships are desperate to streamline the digital sales funnel and acquire cars flawlessly, but physical mechanical realities like faulty fuel cap gaskets on hybrids continuously force them to reallocate their precious time, space, and technician resources back to the service bays. It is a constant tug of war.
Which brings us to the ultimate practical takeaway for you, the listener. Success in this fractured environment depends entirely on agility.
Agility is the only way forward.
Whether you are a consumer in the market to buy a car or an operator running a massive dealership group, you have to move quickly, adapt to new digital technologies, and be willing to look far outside traditional channels to find value.
If you stand still in this market, you are going to get run over.
The auto market isn't just changing lanes. It is repaving the road while we are driving on it. Thank you for joining us for this segment of Auto News Talk.
It has been an absolute pleasure to break this all down and connect the dots.
We want to leave you with one final thought to chew on as you navigate this space. Watch very closely how quickly automakers deploy new incentives on those $50,000 new cars versus how stubbornly dealers hold their prices on the used lot. That standoff between new car desperation and used car demand will define the next phase of the industry. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road.